guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over two different articles dealing with the subject of women and the draft, and how the days of just men being potentially drafted in the event of a major war are soon to be coming to an end. And the first article title is, "We Need Everybody. Plans to make women register for potential military draft advance in policy bill." And the second article is, "Democrats tuck female draft into defense bill." And as you're going to see through these articles, guys, these two articles, they're brand new. They came out within the last 24 hours, and obviously they're trying to push through a bill for the military budget or whatever. And a certain political party is trying to squeeze in the thing with the female draft. And nothing like this has happened before. And as you are well aware, many members of the sisterhood, the feminist movement, have been pushing for this for a long time, because in the name of equality, right? And let's be honest here, if you have certain members of these groups that have been pushing for equality, this is true equality, because up until now, men are required between, I believe, at 18 years old, 18 and 25, to register for the selective service, and in the event of a major war, only men could be drafted, but not women. Well, that could change, and that's what these groups want. Now, what I find interesting is that, I think if you went around polling young women nowadays and said, hey, do you support feminism and things like that, most would probably say yes, either because they feel like they're on the spot, or they really do, not really aware what a lot of these hardcore members of the sisterhood are trying to push. And so they may say, yeah, I support it, equal rights, things like that, not realizing what a lot of these nut jobs want to pass. But if you told your average gal on the street that you or maybe your future daughters one day would be just like men, be required to register in the event of, they may see things differently. So if this goes through, which looks like it very much may go through, I think the ranks of the sisterhood are going to drop big time. And you may all of a sudden see a whole shift with regards to the gals out there identifying as an feminist. But anyhow, guys, I'm going to go through these articles here. You'll see a little bit more what's going on here. Each article, it covers the same thing, but it's a little more. In one article covers one area, another article covers another area. So we're going to get the whole picture here. And the first one, the title again is, "We Need Everybody. Plans to make women register for potential military draft advance in policy bill." It says here, plans to require women to register with the selective service system for the possibility of future military draft took another step forward after a key congressional panel backed the change as part of a must-pass military policy bill. The House Armed Services Committee approved the proposal by a 35 to 24 vote, with the support from all Democrats and several Republicans on the panel. Supporters said the time to include women in cases of national emergency is long overdue. And we have one person being quoted here saying, "The current male-only registration sends a message to women not only that they are not vital to the defense of the country, but also that they are not expected to participate in defending it," said Representative Chrissy Houlihan, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, an Air Force veteran and author of the amendment. Something tells me Representative Houlihan is not going to be very popular if this thing goes through. She also says it also sends a message to men that they are, for some reason, are uniquely, and perhaps unfairly dependent upon. This needs to change. Well, again, if we're talking about equality, and they're supposed to get 100% equality, then it is only fair that, hey, if a man can be drafted, then a woman can. Now, we can go round and round and round about different things, And the reality is, like in terms of, for military service, in terms of physical strength, let's talk about that real quick. Now, I'm a personal trainer. I've been training in gyms all around the country and the world, I might add, since I was 16 years old. And let me tell you, I've seen some strong gals in the gym, but they don't come close to men. Now, in terms of lower body strength, I've seen women do squats and deadlifts and lunges with some seriously heavy weight. But it took them years to get there, when in a very brief period of time, a guy could get there. I've seen some with impressive upper body strength. But again, it doesn't compare to men. And as obviously in training, you're required to carry a lot of gear. Okay, can it be done? Sure, but it's a lot harder. In terms of self-defense and fighting skills, I train in martial arts, in two martial arts, Krav Maga and Muay Thai kickboxing, non-stop, hardcore for 6 years. And let me tell you, I train with a number of different girls, women. And believe me, the ones that were there for a number of years training, they were like vicious tigers when they would sparring or do different types of training. They were really good. But it took years and years and years to get there. And even then, a 120-pound girl, she could have all those skills, and she could whip some butt. But it's a different ball game if it's street, as opposed to headgear on and mouth guards in and boxing gloves and all that. It's different. And one could say with adrenaline and going and all that, one can kick some butt. But the point is this, is that women can be trained to whip some butt and get a lot of strength, but not all are going to be able to do it, and it could take a long time than versus a man. Okay? So, as you can imagine, that is one example of many flaws to, you can see where I'm going with this. But then again, at the end of the day, everybody has a finger to squeeze the trigger or push a button, and you see where I'm going with this. But the point is, we can go round for round here, but you want equality. Well, here's some serious equality. And again, if a guy doesn't register, selected service, 18 and 25, you can go to jail. Anyhow, going on here. It says here, Senate lawmakers included similar language in their draft of the annual defense authorization bill, making it likely that some version of the proposal will remain in the final compromise draft of the legislation. The authorization bill, which includes items such as the annual military pay raise and specialty pay authorizations, has passed each year for more than 5 decades. Currently, here's how we're going to get into it here. Currently, only men between the ages of 18 through 25 are required to register for potential conscription in the event of a prolonged war. The new rules would include women on those lists too. This goes through, and it looks like it will. There's going to be a lot of fireworks. Let me tell you. Another politician is being quoted. It says, whatever the emergency is, if it's so great that we have to go to a draft, we need everybody, says Representative Mike Waltz, Republican from Florida, and an Army veteran. We need men, women, gay, straight, any religion, black, white, brown. We need all hands on deck. The idea of requiring women to participate in the draft has been considered in the budget bill debate in the past, including in 2016 when lawmakers established a commission to research the idea. Last year, the National Commission on Military, National, and Public Service offered its recommendation that women be included in potential draft lists, given the military's prior decision to open all combat posts to women. That has been that had been the legal basis for excluding women from conscription in the past. Despite that, in June, the Supreme Court declined to hear a challenge to the men-only rule, saying a final decision was more appropriately left for Congress. Well, right now, here in the United States, for those of you that watch me from other parts of the world don't know, we have a Congress, we have the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the White House, all in control of the Democratic Party, which many are for this. This is why this is very likely to go through. So we shall see. Another politician is being quoted as saying, I feel confident in an emergency that the women of this country would step up and volunteer as needed, says Representative Vicky Hartzler, a Republican from Missouri. The current system does not fence off anyone. It seems like this is a solution in search of a problem. So she's obviously against this, but right here the quote saying, I feel confident in an emergency that the women of the country would step up and volunteer as needed. Translation, there's a major war, and in her view, there'll be an never-ending supply of gals signing up for combat. Sorry, lady, I don't think there's a snowball chance in hell that's going to happen. Unless there are tanks rolling through your town of an enemy, I don't think anything like that's going to happen. But we know who her constituents are. But women's rights advocates have argued, here we go, for the change, saying inequitable treatment affects social perceptions of men and women. I have an idea. Send them in. Make them the first ones to go in the event of a draft. See how long they may feel this way. Under the current system, if men fail to register for a possible draft, they can face criminal penalties and be ruled ineligible for federal loans and other benefits. Women do not face such punishment. That doesn't sound very equal to me. How about you? The full defense authorization bill is expected to be voted on by the full House later this month. A compromise version of the measure is expected to be finalized and sent to the president later this fall. Well, we shall see how that goes. I'll be certainly paying attention to that. Now, on to the second article. The second article says, Democrats tuck female draft into defense bill. This is following up on some of this, but other parts as well. Republican bids to eliminate critical something theory. I probably can't say what that really is, but you know what I'm talking about because how things are with YouTube. Republicans bid to eliminate that, protect all male draft shot down in late night debate. The Pentagon will have to start drafting women in order to receive funding after House Democrats amended the defense budget. Representative Chrissy Houlihan, back to her, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, put forward a measure on Wednesday to require all women over the age of 18 to register for selective service. Oh, she's not going to be popular. Houlihan said her policy would best draw on the talents of our entire nation. Only 1 in 3 women, however, support adding women to the draft, according to an Ipsos poll. Only 1 in 3 women, according to this poll, approve of that. Republicans pilloried the legislation. Representative Vicky Hartzler, Republican from Missouri, a House Armed Services Committee member, lampooned the prospect that millions of America's daughters could be put needlessly in the line of fire. Again, she's quoted as saying, and I have to read this again because I think it's just absurd. The quote is saying, I feel confident that in an emergency that women of this country would step up and volunteer as needed. Pfft. Fat chance. Hartzler said, it seems like this is a solution in search of a problem. We don't need to draft women in order for women to have equality in this nation. Well, if you want full equality, it's because it is wrong that if, again, men don't register for selective service, then jail time, fines, no federal loans, things like that. But that doesn't seem like equality to me. Female participation in the military has steadily increased since 2004, rising to 17% in 2018. A larger percentage of women in the military service are commissioned as officers than men. Critics say conscription should focus on fielding the most effective fighting force rather than gender ideology. Well, welcome to today's world where that ideology is being put pretty much with everything. And what's the saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Terry Schilling, the president of the American Principles Project, which led a campaign against the measure, told the Washington Free Beacon the decision could have a crippling effect on lawmakers who passed the bill. Oh, you bet your ass. Again, back to what I said in the beginning. You walk on the street and you poll average gals, particularly young gals these days, and say, hey, what do you think about Feminism and the feminist movement and all that, and probably do you identify as that? And probably a majority would say, oh yeah, I support it, I'm for it, I'm one, but not really grasping there are many levels to the sisterhood, and what the biggest mouths in the sisterhood are trying to make a reality. And if this goes through, which I think it will, given the current state of our government, there could be a whole lot of gals out there. They're going to be like, what? And all of a sudden, may have an about face towards this type of thing. We shall see. Maybe I'm being a little too hopeful here, but we'll see. I think I'm speaking on behalf of millions of fathers across the country when I say I don't want my daughters drafted into the next military conflict, Schilling said. To conscript them into the military and put them on the front lines is a nightmare. I'm trying to imagine your average gal nowadays, Generation Z types, in this situation. I don't think it'll go very well. On the other hand, I can't imagine your average Generation Z guy in this situation either. Thanks to decades of the feminist movement trying to make men and mold men to be more feminine and emotional, in touch with their feelings, pouring out their emotions. We shall see. Houlihan's measure passed 35 to 24 with 5 Republicans crossing party lines to support it. A similar measure passed the Senate by a razor-thin margin over the objections of national security hawks. Former Army Ranger Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican for Arkansas, and Air Force veteran Senator Roger Wicker, Republican from Mississippi, jousted the Democrats over its inclusion into the annual spending bill. One of the guys is being quoted as saying, "Our military has welcomed women for decades and are stronger for it," Cotton said in July. "But America's daughters shouldn't be drafted against their will. I oppose this amendment in committee, and I'll work to remove it before the defense bill passes." Another guy says, "I support our military's efforts to offer more opportunities for women who want to volunteer to service," Wicker said in July. "But when I think of my own daughters and granddaughters, I could not in good conscience support an amendment that would compel their military service." Well, these guys are Republicans, and so I'm not surprised that this is their views. House Democrats also stifled a Republican bid to bar critical something theory from the ranks. Democrats shot down an amendment sponsored by Hartzler, as well as Reps Jim Banks, a Republican from Indiana, and Mark Green, a Republican from Tennessee, that would preclude military academies and instructors of enlisted troops from teaching the controversial ideology. Oh, good Lord. The final quote here says, "When it comes to law enforcement and military, you can't tolerate lies and a lack of integrity," Schilling said. "It's very concerning to me and millions of families across the country that the military is embracing lies like critical something theory." Well, that is a thing that's been popping up more and more, and not too popular, as you can probably imagine. But that's a discussion for another day. But anyhow, back to the issue of this article. We shall see. But again, it goes back down to, hey, you guys want equality, or let's just say the biggest mouths in the sisterhood has been pushing for absolute 100% equality. This is what you get. So we shall see how this pans out. But again, given the fact that how our government here in the United States is House of Representatives, Democrats, Senate, Democrats, White House, Democrat, and that party has been pushing these type of things. Those that support the equality and the sisterhood obviously are voters of that party usually. This may go through, so we shall see how it goes. But anyhow, guys, I'll be keeping a close watch on this, and if it does go through and become law of the land, I will do a article on that. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes, because let's be honest here, people spend all day and night on their phones reading things, but a lot of people really have no idea current events, what's going on, things that can affect them. It's amazing to me. So I guarantee a lot of people, particularly ladies, don't know about this. So they're going to know about it soon enough if this becomes a law, so we shall see. But anyhow, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, also, if you happen to come across a really interesting news article from around the world that you'd like me to cover, by all means, email it to me. And then if it's definitely a good one, and it's something I can do, I most certainly will, as well as interesting stories you have about your lives, how you've had some challenges and things you've overcome. Again, send me those stories. Make sure they're well written and easy for me to read. If they're all jammed together and I can't do it, then I'm unfortunately going to have to skip it over because I don't have the time to be an editor. So, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.